Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the month of Jumada al-Ula, in the 8th year of the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the Battle of Mu'tah, and now the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had already seen the performance of Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu in the Battle of Mu'tah, and he earned that nickname that stayed with him for the rest of his life radiallahu anhu, Sayfullah al-Maslul, the brandished sword of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What about his companion in the migration to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu? Remember that Sayyidina Khalid radiallahu anhu initially was a soldier in that army of Mu'tah, not a leader. Again, for purposes of bringing them and preparing them before he gains that leadership, he has to prove himself. How can he listen to orders, take orders instead of just giving orders? And he did that greatly, radiallahu anhu. Now it was the test for the other great companion, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. The mother of Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As was from the tribe of Bala. There were some groups of tribes, Bala and Qada'a and so on, who were always trying to initiate skirmishes with the Medina al-Munawwara and with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to send an expedition to this group that also had some blood relationship with them. So one day, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu and told him, Amr, go home and get ready. Which means that he's going to send him on an expedition. As a soldier or as a leader? Sayyidina Amr looked at Sayyidina Khalid ibn Walid, who was more military well versed than he was, and he found that Sayyidina Khalid initially started as a soldier. So Sayyidina Amr thought that I'm going to be serving under the leadership of someone, no big deal. But the Prophet ﷺ told him, I'm going to send you on an expedition. You're going to lead an expedition. You're going to come back safely. And you're going to gain a lot of money and spoils of war through that expedition. Go ahead and get ready. Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu sort of felt, why is the Prophet ﷺ telling me about the spoils of war that we're going to gain and so on? He didn't tell that to the other armies or to Zayd ibn Haritha or Ja'far or any of the other leaders. Doesn't the Prophet ﷺ trust me enough? So Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu told the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I did not embrace Islam for the spoils of war. That's not the reason why I became a Muslim. I became a Muslim because I believe in Islam and I want to follow you and I want to be with you. Al-kaynuna ma'aka ya Rasulullah. To be with you, O Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was pleased with this answer and he responded to him, Ya Amr, ni'imma al-malu as-salih lil-rajul as-salih. O Amr, there's nothing wrong with a good man earning good money. There's no discrepancy here. The Prophet ﷺ saw the growth of Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu in the ranks of the Muslims. So now, instead of his beginning to be as a foot soldier or as a follower, the Prophet ﷺ gave him that responsibility as a leader. A leader on whom? Who was in the army of Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu? Again, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. They were soldiers in the army led by Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As felt pride. And he thought to himself, well, definitely since the Prophet ﷺ nominated me as the leader over Abu Bakr and Umar, he sees something in me. Maybe he loves me more than Abu Bakr and Umar. He misunderstood the message. And they went on that expedition. And then when they went to meet their enemy, they were traveling by day, they were traveling by night, and fighting by day. So, and or maybe staying sometimes in hiding by day to take the enemy by surprise. And then one of the nights, they felt that their number is too few for the potential enemy, so they called for supplies. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam called Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu, a great companion, and told him, "You go and be his support, and do not bicker, do not argue, try to come to a consensus." So Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu led this support contingent to join Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu, and upon his arrival, Sayyidina Amr, who wanted to be a leader, told him, now, some people said, well, he came, the latter army sent by the Prophet ﷺ, so this should be the new leader. But Amr said, no, I was nominated by the Prophet ﷺ, so I am going to be the leader. Some people said, well, you should be the leader of your own group, and he would be the leader of his own group. And he said, no, there couldn't be two leaders of the same army. I am going to be the leader. Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah remembered the advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not differ, do not bicker. So he said, okay, if you want the leadership, you are the leader. That's fine, I have no problem. So that shows the character of Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah radiallahu anhu. And Sayyidina Amr, with all of his intelligence, he was a very, very smart person, one of the smartest people of Arabia. He kept, again, traveling by night, hiding by day to take the enemy by surprise. And then it was a very cold night. It was a very cold winter, and they were traveling at night, and the companions were extremely cold. So they asked Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, again, they know Sayyidina Abu Bakr, they trust Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. They told him, can we lit some fire to get warm? And Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, I can't decide, let me ask the leader. So he went to Sayyidina Amr, can we lit up some fires to get warm? Sayyidina Amr responded very firmly, if anyone lits any fire, I'm going to throw them in that fire. Do not lit any fires. So the people were very dismayed with this answer, with the harshness of this answer and the promptness of this answer. But again, it came from the leader. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu did not like this answer, or the tone in which the answer was given, especially how can Sayyidina Amr talk to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu in this way? But Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu told him, listen, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam nominated him as our leader for a certain reason. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows more than we do. I am gonna follow his orders. Basically, they surprised the enemy. The enemy fled. They took a lot of wealth that the enemy left behind, and they took it back to Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. On the way back, something interesting happened. Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu slept at night, and he woke up before Fajr, impure, ala janaba, needing to have a shower before he can pray. But it was extremely cold, and they didn't lit any fires. So basically, instead of making ghusl, which is the complete purification, he just made wudu. And then he led the Muslims in the prayer. Not only did he pray, he led the Muslims in the prayer. And they wondered. He told them about what happened. And they wondered, how can you lead us in the prayer in a state of impurity? You did not take your ghusl. So when they went to the Prophet ﷺ, when they rejoined the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, they complained to the Prophet ﷺ about the behavior of Sayyidina Amr, how he was harsh, he prevented them from lighting up fires and so on. And Sayyidina Amr, now it was his turn to justify what he did. He told the Prophet ﷺ, O Messenger ﷺ, we are completely outnumbered by the enemy. If we lit any fire, even if it was a fire per person, the enemy could count the fires and they could recognize that we are very few in number, so they would attack us and terminate us. So I preferred to keep our numbers secret, to take them by surprise. And the Prophet ﷺ, now hearing this justification, that makes a lot of sense. And then he asked him, what about this event that you led the Muslims without having the proper cleansing, and he said, "Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا, and do not kill yourselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful for you." I knew, O Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that was an extremely cold night. If I had taken a shower, I would have died out of cold. So that's why I followed the Quran. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam laughed at what he did, not completely approving of what he did, but he sallallahu alaihi wasallam laughed because, again, this is a very unique situation. He did not sallallahu alaihi wasallam tell the companions to repeat their prayer or anything like that, but he sallallahu alaihi wasallam just laughed at his own interpretation of the Quran. Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, again, after he came back and he came back safely as the Prophet ﷺ had promised him, and he earned the good money from the spoils of war as the Prophet ﷺ also had promised him. Now he thought to himself, well, since the Prophet ﷺ nominated me as the leader of the army, I must have a very special place in his heart sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he went to the Prophet ﷺ and asked, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, man ahabbu nasi ilayk? Who is the most beloved person to you? What he expected to hear is Amr. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Aisha. And Sayyidina Amr said, that's not what I'm asking, but among your companions, who is the most beloved one to you? So the Prophet ﷺ said, Abuha, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So Sayyidina Amr and said, and then who? Then Umar. And then who? And the Prophet ﷺ kept citing names without saying the name of Amr ibn al-As. So after maybe 10 or so, Sayyidina Amr stopped asking because he knew that I'm not there yet. I misread the order of the Prophet ﷺ and I overestimated my importance. And he said, when I migrated to the Prophet ﷺ, I was so shy about my fighting of him and my enmity to him for so many years that I never filled my eyes from the face of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I always looked down out of respect for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the extent, he says, to the extent that if anyone asks me to describe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I wouldn't be able to, because again, I was always looking down out of, again, regret for what I did in the past, and I wouldn't dare raise my eyes to look in the eyes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as I mentioned probably once before, when Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu embraced Islam, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised him by saying, "Aslam al-nasu wa amana Amr ibn al-As." That people came to me as Muslims, but Amr came to me as a believer, as a mu'min, which is a higher level than just a Muslim who declares the Shahada with their own tongue. Of course, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As, he says that in my relationship with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I passed by 3 phases. Or my life with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam can be divided into, or in Islam can be divided into 3 phases. The first phase is in the days of disbelief. There was no one more hated to me on earth than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I have fought him several times. And if I had died in such a condition, I would have gone to the hellfire. And then I embraced Islam. And I fought with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was the most beloved person to me. And if I had died at that time, I would have no doubt that I would go to paradise. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Sayyidina Amr is narrating that close to the end of his life, and he had a very important role in supporting Sayyidina Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu in his disagreement with Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Again, who is more fit for being the Khalifa after the martyrdom of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu in the events that were known as Al-Fitna Kubra, the big trial, very, very sad events. But basically, especially after Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu also was martyred, he confirmed, even in the life of Sayyidina Ali, and then later on after Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu was martyred, he played a very important role in establishing the rule of the Umayyad dynasty, the dynasty of Bani Umayyah, as the new Khilafah. So he said, we have done things at these days. We have done good things and we have done bad things. So this is the third phase of my life, and now my fate is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive my bad deeds and to reward me for my good deeds that I did in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. Of course, some people would feel a debt to Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As and to his intelligence and how smart he was radiallahu anhu, especially anyone who lives in Africa, any Muslim from Africa, any Muslim from Egypt or from North Africa or from Africa in general would have a debt of gratitude to Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, because at the time of the Khilafah of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, inshallah we're going to conclude with that. At the time of the Khilafah of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he sent an expedition to invite the people of Egypt to Islam. And that delegation was led by Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. And approaching Egypt on the eastern border of Egypt after crossing the Sinai Peninsula, in a city called Al-Farama, or what is now Suez in Egypt, a message came from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu. This was basically the border of Egypt, the eastern border of Egypt. And Sayyidina Amr had not stepped in yet. So that was before Suez Canal. Of course, it was a continuous piece of land. There was no water barrier there. So the sealed letter came from Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu to the leader of the army, Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, saying that. Again, the letter is sealed. Sayyidina Amr did not know the contents of the letter. However, he was again extremely smart. He concluded what could be the content of this letter. The content of the letter was, if you have received this letter and opened it before entering Egypt, come back. Come back to Medina. Do not get into Egypt. But if you have already stepped into Egypt, proceed in the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ala barakatillah. So the letter came to Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu actually before they have crossed the border to Egypt. He kept the letter sealed. He didn't open the letter. And he pretended as if he had forgotten about receiving such a letter, until the army marched in and they crossed the border to Egypt. And then he said, oh, where are we now? And they told him, we are in Al-Farma, or what is now Suez. So we are actually inside Egypt. And he said, okay, oh, what about that letter that we have received a few days ago? The letter from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Umar. Oh, bring this letter, I forgot about it. And he opened the letter in front of everyone. Again, the letter was sealed, so he unsealed the letter and opened it and read it loudly. If you have not crossed into Egypt, come back. If you have already crossed into Egypt, proceed. So he said, again, where are we now? And they confirmed to him that we are in Egypt. So he said, well, according to the orders of Amir al-Mu'mineen, now we should proceed. So we will proceed, inshallah. And again, with the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that expedition was successful. It led to the break. The Egyptian Copts, who were under the tyranny of the Roman Empire, felt that this Muslim army is closer to them and more fair to them than the Roman Empire, who were Christians but from a different sect, mistreating the Copts, who were the original people of Egypt. So they embraced Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu and his army against the army of the Roman garrison in Egypt. And that's how Sayyidina Amr radiallahu anhu and his army conquered Egypt and then established his capital Al-Fustat in what is now ancient Cairo, and then proceeded to Alexandria, which was the seat of power in Egypt, and he conquered Alexandria. And then that army and its following army started branching westward to Libya, what is now Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, until they reached Morocco, and later on crossed the Gibraltar Strait. And then later on, again, future armies invaded the Iberian Peninsula and established the Umayyad dynasty in Al-Andalus, which lasted for 800 years. So you can imagine that any Muslim from this land has a certain debt of gratitude to the genius of Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu and the trick that Sayyidina Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu did. Again, he did it not to gain material things, but again, he thought that this is a land where we should spread Islam and the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fellowship of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And due to that great intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him all the successes in that area. So inshallah, we're going to stop here, and next time inshallah we're going to talk about the precursors of basically what happened between Jumada al-Akhirah in the 8th year and Ramadan of the 8th year until we get to Ramadan and the conquest of Mecca, inshallah. So until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.